Comes around, left rear tire goes.
Did you see that? Well, what if I told you that crash practice by Ross Chastain made sure that he had to start the race dead last. On top of that, he had to go to a backup car that he had never driven before. The team had to stay up till 2:30 a.m. to build that car, wake up at like 5 or 6 a.m. just a few hours later to finish it off. And that car that started dead last as a backup car, 3-4 hours of sleep for this team, they came back and won the Coca-Cola 600. Would you believe me? I probably wouldn't believe me either, but here's what ended up happening.
Back to the front. Ross Chastain wins the Coca-Cola 600.
Ross Chastain. I hate to say out of nowhere, but at the end of this race, it looked like it was going to be William Byron versus Denny Hamlin. Byron, who dominated this race. Hamlin, who was the only one who could keep up with him. All of a sudden, Denny Hamlin's team has a bad pit stop, and not necessarily like they had a 20-second pit stop or something, but they didn't put enough fuel in the car. And Denny Hamlin runs out of fuel with like 14 laps to go. So all of a sudden, it's like, oh, okay. All right, Byron's going to run away with this thing. Solid race. Hamlin and Byron had some great battles. Well done by Byron. They executed a little bit better at the end. But then all of a sudden, okay, the one car's in second. He's a second, 1.2 seconds back. 1.1. 1. 8/10. 6/10. He's within half a second. He's on Byron's bumper. And all of a sudden, we see this game of back and forth defending. You know, Byron defending the lines, trying to block, trying to arrow block in a sense and keep Chastain away from him. Then we see one little slip up from William Byron, and that allowed Chastain the opportunity to go down, pull off the slide job, get past William Byron, and Ross Chastain, for the first time in his career, has won a crown jewel race. I mean, truly, I thought this was a great race. There's been so much complaining about the racing over the past month or so. I still think Texas and Kansas were good races. Yell at me all you want. But tonight, Charlotte, the oval, and the next-gen car has once again shown that this car can provide pretty darn good racing. We had great battles between Byron and Hamlin for the lead. The second half of this race, primarily, Byron really ran away with it in the first half of the race. But in the second half of the race, Denny Hamlin's team found something that they were able to compete with William Byron. They were able to put up a fight. And then in those closing laps, we obviously saw Ross Chastain, but we had a great battle for the win. We saw a clean battle for the win, I might add. We had a mix of different guys kind of up front. We'll get to some of those guys here in a minute. We ended up having some wacky results despite it being a pretty straightforward race. Like, it wasn't like Texas, where there were a bunch of crashes at the end of this thing. It wasn't a fuel mileage race. It wasn't a super speedway style of race with a bunch of crashes. But we still had a few wacky results up in here. So, but a crown jewel race to cap off the Motorsport holiday. This was the best of the three, I thought. Usually, I feel like it's Indy that over-delivers more than the other two. And Charlotte, the past few years, has delivered and has been on the same level as Indy. But this year, Charlotte was far and above the best of the three, if you ask me. Fantastic racing, great storylines all night, from the positives of Ross Chastain winning his first crown jewel in late race, thrilling fashion, to the heartbreak of William Byron. His home race, he's always wanted to win here, a crown jewel as well, to lead 283 laps and just fall short, just 6 or so laps short of his first home win at the Coca-Cola 600. To Carson Hocevar having arguably race-winning pace with Byron and Hamlin and blowing an engine from second place. We got the highs, we got the lows, we got the middles. I mean, we had everything in this race, it felt like. And then to top things off, we had Amazon Prime Video making their NASCAR debut, and I thought they knocked it out of the park. Could be an overreaction. Everything in this video could be an overreaction, but I thought they did a great job. I thought the graphics were great. They had this little burn meter or something that was like, how much fuel are you burning per lap? Because Amazon has all these tech services and all these analytic data, AI stuff that can project this stuff. And they had a little burn meter or something. I can't remember what they actually called it, but it was burn something. And that was a cool thing. The booth meshed together so well. Adam Alexander is the lead. Dale Jr. and Steve Letarte, we've heard them together. They work great together. Those two together kind of made it feel NBC-esque in a sense, just because we're so used to hearing them together. The direction I thought was good. Amazon Prime Video, I just thought they knocked it out of the park for this first broadcast. I thought everything clicked really well tonight. Sure, there were a couple things I could nitpick or whatnot, like Dale Jr. said the 5's wheel fell off, and then he's like, oh, no, it's actually the 51, and then it was actually the 66, but it's his first race in a year and a half. So give him a week or two to figure it out, you know? He'll get back to it. But I thought Amazon Prime Video, I thought they did a great job. I thought we had a great race. As I said, we had everything in this race. We had some great racing up front for the lead. We had some alternate strategies, guys trying to bank on a caution late in the race like Chase Elliott. And then, speaking of Chase Elliott, SVG, and a few other guys, I think Kyle Busch was one of them too, those guys stayed out like an extra 15 or so laps trying to bank on a caution to get themselves some better track position. They end up coming back out like 19th, 20th in that range. Chase Elliott drives up to 6th. SVG gets a top 15 at the Coca-Cola 600. Kyle Busch gets up to 15th. I mean, truly, we had alternate strategies. We had great racing. We had some tire fall off. We had guys right on the edge, like losing, slipping, sliding. We saw the day to night transition a little bit, just a little bit. And it wasn't as extreme today because it was cloudy. It was a little cooler. But we saw it all, it felt like. The Coca-Cola 600, ladies and gentlemen, has delivered again. Let's just jump into it. Let's jump into the finishing results. I said we had some highs and lows. We had the positives. We got the negatives. Obviously, at the top of the finishing results here, we're going to go with the positives first because that's when we go into finishing order. Ross Chastain missed the playoffs last year because he simply did not win a race. You got to remember, that team was top 12 in points the majority of the year, but because we had so many winners from position 12 on back, Harrison Burton, Austin Cindric, Chase Briscoe, Daniel Suarez, because we had all those different winners, Chastain missed the playoffs. They were an extremely consistent team last year. As I said, they were up in the top 12 in points, but because of all the wacky winners, and they didn't get a win, they missed it. And now that you know that's a possibility, with that pressure on your shoulders, it's a lot, I feel like, for him, for Buescher, for Bubba, all three of those guys right there in that mix that were kind of the 11th to 14th in the points. That's a lot of pressure on them this year to know that they're in a must-win. Now, it could play out that we get more points positions this year, but you have to factor in that there could be some wacky winners. So they knew coming into this year that was a possibility, that they were going to have to win a race to make the playoffs. And Trackhouse this year has not been good. Ross Chastain has carried this team. He's got a few top 10s on the year. He's been outperforming the equipment, I would argue, but as a whole, even with Chastain, their qualifying efforts have been horrid. They've been all qualifying in the 30s, from Chastain to SVG. It doesn't matter what track. Martinsville, Talladega. The only exception was Coda, and that's because it was a road course, and all three of their drivers are great road course racers, but they have been horrid at qualifying. Their race pace has been extremely meh, with the exception of Chastain stepping up and, as I said, outperforming the equipment and posting a runner-up finish at Texas. Well, tonight, we didn't get to see a qualifying effort out of Chastain, and once again, the other three cars, because Zilich was in this thing, they did not do anything special in qualifying, but Ross Chastain did something special tonight. Once again, this could be an overreaction, but this is an all-time drive, if you ask me. At least for Chastain, for his career, this is his best drive. Start last in a backup car that you've never driven. Once again, the team stayed up till 2:30 a.m. to fix this car. It's a crown jewel, 600 miles. You literally went from last to first in a backup car for a team that has been running mid-pack all season long. With the exception of you, who every once in a while is able to take this thing to a top 10 or a top 5 when it doesn't deserve to be there. What Ross Chastain did tonight was incredible. He only led 8 laps tonight. The finish of this race reminded me so much of the 2015 Fall Texas race, where Brad Keselowski led 312 of the 334 laps of that race. But that last run, those last 25 to 30 laps, the car just wasn't good enough. And the second place car, the car that put themselves in position, Jimmy Johnson, they ended up stealing the race with 6 laps to go. That was Ross Chastain tonight. He was behind the 24 all night. Everyone was behind the 24 all night. He led 283 out of 400 laps. Byron dominated this race, but when it came to that last run, he was that much behind, and Chastain was able to take advantage, lead the last 8 laps, win the race at Charlotte. So, as I said, incredible drive by Chastain, incredible race by that team. They are in the playoffs. That is a huge deal for Trackhouse after how everything went down last year with the one car specifically. I know the 99 still made it, and with how everything has gone from February to yesterday, for them to get a win on an intermediate oval on speed with a backup car after they started last, incredible. Truly incredible. An incredible performance by that team. That's going to be well remembered by them for a long, long time. And there's a tweet talking about how some fan tried to steal Ross Chastain's hat. I don't know why you do that. Have you ever seen Ross Chastain throw a punch? I have, and he lands. Here's a fun fact from Seth Eggert. Ross Chastain is the first driver to start last not due to a penalty and win since Richard Petty in the 1971 spring race at Richmond Raceway. 54 years. All right, I don't think it's an overreaction anymore. I think this is an all-time drive by Ross Chastain, ladies and gentlemen. Second place, William Byron. As I said, the spectrum, we got the positives. Well, this is the negative. Ironically, I said we were going to have to go further down the list for this, but we only had to go one spot lower. William Byron, ladies and gentlemen, for the second time this year, has just dominated a race. Just led 200 and something laps. I don't remember how many he led at Darlington, to be honest with you. He leads 283 tonight, though. I know that for a fact. He sweeps the stages, picks up 3 playoff points. Remember, we have a bonus stage at Charlotte. He dominated this race and finished second. Him and Denny Hamlin were the class of the field. At times, Denny Hamlin was better. In the shorter to even medium run, Hamlin seemed to have a little bit more, but if Byron was ahead, sometimes he could manage it and he could hold off Hamlin. Him and Hamlin had some back and forth, some great battles, some great fight for the lead of this amazing race. But the long run, Byron killed everyone. In stage 2, he won that stage by like 9 seconds. They killed it. They looked like they were going to run away with this thing. It looked like it was going to be maybe not as extreme as a 2016 Martin Truex Jr. who led 392 out of 400 laps. Maybe not Kyle Busch from 2018 who led 370-something laps. But it looked like Byron could go lead 300-something laps, win by 6 seconds, and, the internet will be calling this a horrible race. But as I said, Denny Hamlin, the 11 car, they found something, they made it competitive, and then that last run, they just didn't have enough to hold off Ross Chastain, who really was nowhere near the 11 or the 24 or the 77. They were top 5, I would argue. They were up in the top 10, top 5 the second half of this race, even the second third of this race. But they weren't quite on the level of the 24, the 11, as I said, the 77, until that last stint when Chastain was able to run him down and make the pass for the win. So for William Byron, falls just 8 laps short of his first ever Coca-Cola 600 win. Would have been his second crown jewel win of the season, ultimately falls short. But on the bright side, his crown jewel average finish this year is a 1.5. Once again, it's his home race. It's the Coca-Cola 600. To fall short, it's got to be soul-crushing for him. Feel bad for him, but a great points night. 65 points on the night. I believe that will get them the regular season points lead over Larson. Correct me if I'm wrong there. Third place, Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe, once again, gets a pole for a crown jewel as he did at the Daytona 500 earlier this year. But at another mile and a half, they go and they finish top 5. Chase Briscoe earlier in the season said he was a little bit anxious about the mile and a halves because of the high expectations and the high performance by Joe Gibbs Racing at these style of tracks. But Chase Briscoe's done great this year at the mile and a halves. I think he was top 5 at Kansas last week. NASCAR website's kind of glitching out right now, so I think it was, but correct me if I'm wrong there. They've done great. They fell back a little bit earlier in this race. They had a penalty. They were involved in a wreck, but they overcame it. They had raw speed. They had straight up speed, top 5 speed. They overcome all that, take advantage of others' mistakes to finish 3rd, and look at 4th place. I don't know if I'm pointing to the right place, but 4th place, AJ Allmendinger. This is no fluke, ladies and gentlemen. AJ Allmendinger has always been great at the road courses. We know that. He's even a solid super speedway racer. And extremely randomly, he's really good at Homestead Miami. He has the best average finish at Homestead Miami in the next gen era. It's extremely random. No one knows why, but he's really good there. Where did this come from? Top 5 to top 10 speed all weekend. Practice. They qualified 5th. I mean, where did this come from? Colleague Racing was horrid last year. They got close to winning at Watkins Glen with SVG. I think they had some good road course performances from AJ Allmendinger, a couple top 10s somewhere in there. Outside of that, I can't think of a single good thing they did. I think Daniel Hemrick led a couple laps at Talladega once. They were bad last year, to an extreme level. This year, they are much improved, and that's an understatement. AJ Allmendinger's in contention for a playoff spot, and we're halfway through the regular season. Top 5 raw speed at the Coca-Cola 600, 49 points on the day. For that team, that is a huge deal. For AJ Allmendinger as a driver, that is a huge, huge deal. Nobody expected this from them heading into the weekend. And this, once again, this was not a fluke. This was straight up speed. This is how good they were this weekend. Huge shout out to Colleague Racing. Huge shout out to AJ Allmendinger. They did a fantastic job this weekend. Do my eyes deceive me? There's no... That's not real. Is it? Brad Keselowski got a top 10? Let alone... No. He didn't get top 10. Brad Keselowski got a top 5? What? Brad Keselowski has been in the worst stint of his Cup Series career. He was in the 30s in the points, ladies and gentlemen. I think he entered this race 32nd in the points. He had great speed at Kansas, was running 2nd when he blew a tire. 5th? What? To say they desperately needed that would be an understatement. Truly. As I said, it's been a horrible year. Any way they can get it. At one point, they were getting lapped in this race. And it looked like they were going to finish like 28th again. I don't know how they got up there. But hey, what a job by Brad Keselowski and the 16. That team desperately needed that finish. Desperately. Chase Elliott 6th. This is the first person we don't really have much to say about, but he finished the 6th. He was top 10 most of the night. Yeah. Michael McDowell 7th. Remember, he had a lot of speed at Texas. Almost won that race. Spire showed a lot of speed with Hocevar tonight. So no real huge shock. Christopher Bell 8th, was top 5 early in this race. Had some problems at some point. Ryan Preece 9th, another great result for Ryan Preece. I think this is 5th top 10 of the year. Remember, really good run at Vegas earlier this year. 1.5 miles. 10th place, Noah Gragson, another guy in the 30s in the points who finishes in the top 10. The guys in the 30s in the points tonight did great. Brad, Noah, SVG, who we'll get to. It was a good night to be in the 30s in the points for some of them. For the others, it was an average night. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 11th, once again, the model of consistency. Josh Berry 12th. They were running in the 30s at one point in this race, but they rallied back for 12th. Eric Jones 13th, the Legacy Moto Club in the first half of this race. Oh my Lord, they had speed. John Hunter Nemechek collected 13 stage points in the first 2 stages. He only had 8 the entire season prior to tonight. That was out of nowhere. Top 5 speed at the beginning of this race. Don't know where it came from, but all right. Eric Jones picked up some stage points as well, by the way. I don't know where that came from. Shane Van Gisbergen. First oval top 15 of the season. I think only the second oval top 15 of his career. I don't know where this came from. I know that Ross Chastain actually had a good amount of speed in practice in the primary, but that's Ross Chastain. Once again, he's pulling a lot out of that car. SVG this weekend, top 15, top 10 speed in practice. Their 10 to 15 lap average was fantastic, like top 8. They ran top 20 the majority of this night. The first stage, they drove up to 18th, and then they ended up fading to 24th, which, by the way, we'll talk about tomorrow. We'll do a more in-depth SVG video tomorrow. But they ran top 20 all night. And if they weren't 20th, they were 21st, 22nd. Past stage 1, I don't think they ever fell worse than 22nd. I don't know where the speed came from. I don't know why he's so good at Charlotte. He's only run 200-something laps in a race here. He did do a test here over the offseason, I believe, so maybe that helped. But SVG, 14th, best oval finish of the year. What a result. 15th, Kyle Busch. He went spinning at one point during this race. Denny Hamlin gets a bonus point for the fastest lap of the race, so he's got that going for him. It looked like it was going to be between him and Byron. They were putting together an all-time classic, great battle, but Byron's crew outdueled Hamlin's crew in the pit stall because they came in nose to tail for that final pit stop. Byron takes the lead, gets a little bit of a gap, and it looked like Denny wasn't going to chase him down. Or maybe he would, but it would just take time. Then they get the radio communication. Denny, we didn't get enough fuel in the car. The second can of fuel, we did not lock it in, and you're about 15 laps short. Everyone else made it on fuel, so this was truly a fuel did not get into the car thing. Denny Hamlin had arguably the best car at times tonight. I would say Byron overall was the quickest, but at times Hamlin was better than Byron. He went up there and he took it from Byron. He put the fight to Byron. He did not let Byron run away with this thing in the second half of this race. It's a team sport, though. And ultimately, the team lets down Denny Hamlin at the end of this race, and they finished 16th. Could have been a win. Could have been a Coca-Cola 600 victory for Denny Hamlin, but ultimately, they fall short. But great, promising speed. And, man, they've had a rough stretch of races here. The engine expiring at Texas, the clutch issues at Kansas with a fast car, and then tonight, arguably the best car at times, could have fought for the win, or they were fighting for the win, could have got the win at the Coca-Cola 600, Coca-Cola driver, by the way, and they end up 16th because of a pit road miscue. So they didn't want to see a 16th, I know that for sure, but ultimately Denny Hamlin, he ends up 16th. 17th, Joey Logano was irrelevant all night long. Like, I don't know why. I don't think the broadcast mentioned them until the end of the race when he was about to get lapped by the leaders, but Joey Logano was irrelevant. I forgot he existed for about 380 laps of this race. Todd Gilliland, the first car one lap down. He ends up 18th. Ty Dillon, 19th. Austin Dillon, 20th. Cole Custer. Chris Buescher, Prosper, Texas' own. He was involved in a crash. Connor Zilic, his oval debut, ends up 23rd. 24th, Ty Gibbs. They ran an alternate strategy at the end, kind of betting on a caution. That bet obviously did not pay off. Cody Ware with the top 25. I take that back. It was a really good night for almost everyone in the 30s. That's a good night for Cody Ware. Tyler Reddick was in the top 5 for the majority of this race. They get a pit road penalty late, have to serve that, and then Tyler Reddick just wrecks himself in front of William Byron. Shocked that it wasn't a caution, but good job by NASCAR Race Control, resisting the urge to hit that caution button and letting things play out naturally because we got a great finish. But Tyler Reddick hitting the wall and the penalty ends up killing their day. Should have been a better finish, but they end up 26th. John Hunter Nemechek, as I said, randomly rapid at the beginning of this race. 13 stage points in the first 2 stages. Raw top 5 speed in the early stages of this race. But then they faded. And then at one point he hit the wall really hard and they end up 27th a couple laps down. So They were on a hot streak. They had a couple top 10s in a row at Kansas and Texas there. Could have been a third, but ultimately 27th. Riely Herbst spun out entering pit road. He ends up 28th. Alex Bowman 29th. They hit the wall early. That derailed their day. 30th, Justin Haley. 31st, Austin Cindric. He had some mechanical problems or something. Overall, just Team Penske was irrelevant today. They've had a rough couple of weeks here with the whole IndyCar scandal, and then their cars had issues in the Indy 500, and now the Penske Cup cars are having problems in the Coke 600. Just bad week to be a Team Penske fan. 32nd, Derek Kraus. 33rd, Josh Bilicki. Quite the combo. Carson Hocevar. This is soul-crushing. Carson Hocevar fighting for his first career win. He's keeping up with Denny Hamlin in a Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota and William Byron in a Hendrick Motorsport Chevy. Those two have far and away been the best two cars all night, and then all of a sudden Carson Hocevar is right there with him for a good chunk of the middle part of the race. Start stage 3. Hocevar starting on the front row. Got a great shot to get his first career win. Go up there, steal it, take it. We've seen so many first-time winners in the Coca-Cola 600. Nope. His engine had other ideas. Carson Hocevar, while fighting for the lead, fighting for the win in the Coca-Cola 600, his engine expires, drops an F-bomb that did not get censored on prime video, ladies and gentlemen. Viewer discretion advised. Language. But Carson Hocevar drops the first ever F-bomb in NASCAR on prime history. Almost gets his first career win. Soul-crushing, heartbreaking for the young driver, but his first win will come one day. Bubba Wallace was involved in a crash. Daniel Suarez was involved in a crash. Kyle Larson. I need to do some math. The goal was 1,100 miles. They barely completed half of that. Crash out right before the halfway point of the Indianapolis 500. Barely get past the halfway point of the Coca-Cola 600. 245 laps complete. That's 597.5 miles. All the excitement, all the hype. I think all the NASCAR fans, even if you're not a Kyle Larson fan, you were rooting for Larson to do this to prove, the excitement of NASCAR, the excitement of a NASCAR driver to prove their worth. It's the double's fun. I want to make a separate video on it because Larson did have an interesting quote after the race. This can be something we talk about tomorrow night. But, yeah. This is about, I don't know if the worst possible way this could have gone down, but definitely unfortunate to crash out of both of these races. He led the first 30 or something laps of this race, and then he just spun himself out. And then they get mired back in traffic. They get in the junk, and he gets wrecked. And that ends their night. So, extremely disappointing for Larson. I would have loved to be sitting here talking about Larson just completed the double. He did 1,100 miles in a day, and, he's just made history. And he did great at Indy. He did great at Charlotte. But unfortunately, we're sitting here talking about how he wrecked himself in the Indy 500. He spun out from the lead in the Coke 600, and then he got clipped by something that wasn't his fault, and he only gets 597.5 miles. Heartbreaking, soul-crushing. As I said, you got the positives. Well, this is a negative. Unfortunately, Kyle Larson, for the second straight year, leaves Memorial Day weekend disappointed. Ryan Blaney, as I said, Team Penske was irrelevant. Ryan Blaney had no speed tonight, and they get involved in a crash. Zane Smith kind of just wrecked himself. Jimmy Johnson, 700th career start. What a career he's had. 700th was one to forget, though. So, once again, what a race. This is a super long race recap, but that, to me, shows you how good of a race it was. Last to first by Chastain. Great drives by other drivers like AJ Allmendinger, like Brad Keselowski. Guys in the 30s in points. Cody Ware got a top 25. SVG got a top 15. Noah Gragson got a top 10. Drivers in the 30s were on fire tonight, man. What a night to be a driver in the 30s. But what a night to be Ross Chastain. What a night to be the number one team. Unfortunate night to be a watermelon. Rest in peace, watermelon. But the NASCAR crown jewel, the Coca-Cola 600, has once again delivered, if you ask me. Great race. Loved it. I hope you loved it too. Let me know what you thought. I'll shut up now. We got the Monday after the Coca-Cola 600 tomorrow. Should be a fun one.